I'm Lily. I'm on the board of directors with Herbalists Without Borders, and I have my business is Brown Bear Herbs. I work with some flower and gem essences, and I love the work of both you. And so we have Star Riparetti and then Sabina Pettitt, and you guys both have very long careers working with gem and flower essences and some other types of essences that I can't wait to discuss more because they're not as well known. I think this will really benefit the people that want to be better in their free clinics through Herbalists Without Borders and just everybody who's curious about essences. So could you please maybe could you start off and tell me a little bit about how you got into essences and what you were doing leading up to that?
I did work in nuclear medicine,
Yeah.
which is energetic medicine, really, but it's the sledgehammer, the radiation. And then I had no idea what flower essences even were, but when I did find out, it was like definitely a calling. It was back before there was any, there was FES and Bach. And apparently there was also Pacific. I'm not sure when you started, Sabina, but you were right. Go ahead.
1983 was our first actual product launch that we actually felt safe to send essences out into the world.
What year did you say?
1983.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, we're 42 years old.
Yeah, I'm merely 30 working with energetic medicine, even though it was nuclear medicine, it was very familiar working with frequencies and vibrations and moving from one end of the spectrum of energy to the other, from basically a sledgehammer to a feather. And it has always made perfect sense to me.
Victoria said well, we had started to connect with plants because we had decided to survive on 5 acres, which became a 25-acre commercial operation. And the Findhorn books dropped out of the sky, and we started communicating with Davis. But I was also working a government job, and I crashed and burned. And the people that healed me were my husband and my chiropractor. My chiropractor used radionics and Bach flower remedies. So I took gallons of rescue remedy and became completely fascinated with that whole possibility. And just the connection with the plants, just walking into a greenhouse and hearing all these little tiny voices like chiming bells, right? Like it opens a part of your brain that you didn't even know existed, right?
Yeah.
So do you feel like it sounds like for you the communication starts like before you even try the essence. Oh,
Yeah, I think when I take people to make essences at our retreats, I think that they have that sense of being called to the plant that wants to say something to them.
yeah, I find myself like wandering in the woods and like, a plant's doing that same thing where they're like, "Hey, hey," and then I research it later. I was like, "That's what I needed right then." So, it's fun. It's very fun. I think of it as it's oneness. Like it makes you feel less alone and it's also a team of the world can be a team of helpers that
Mhm.
is trying to support you. You both have kind of an interesting collection. I mean, there's definitely lots of flowers, which you would expect, but then Sabina, you also have a lot of sea creatures and gemstones, and Star, you have also flowers and gemstones, and then some creatures. Can you tell me more about how you kind of branched out, or was that just seems totally normal?
It was unexpected to me, but I think I kept being called to do the dolphin essence, which
Ah.
actually took a long time because I ended up making an otter essence and before I made the dolphin, I think, and a whale. And each time, just the divine perfection of the energetics that surrounded it. every essence has a story. I'm sure you have the same, Sabina. And what's happening this year is I have a friend that has the coolest snakes, the emerald boas, and she's so dedicated and has, and now it looks like I'm going to make a snake
Oh,
essence.
yes, please
Yes.
do.
From the most gorgeous, well cared for, amazing snakes. In fact, she's in Suriname right now just because she's saving them at other places from being captured. They go relocate them in the Amazon and all around. And but she's got rescues, and she just had a baby, and they will just crawl. I mean, I have a picture of me with them crawling all over. They're green and beautiful. And I asked her the other day, I said, would it be possible to make an essence? And she got so excited. So
I'm
when she gets
excited.
back,
I'm excited. That's really amazing.
it's the year of the snake,
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
the year of the wood snake, the green snake.
the green snake. They're lovely,
Wow.
emerald boas. So these things just, it couldn't be easier when it flows, it flows. And then when I moved here, actually, I never anticipated leaving California. I was born in Santa Barbara. I love Santa Barbara. I came to Arkansas to experience the energy of the crystals. I figured I could handle Arkansas for 4 days, wherever it was. In California, our geography is not so great. We know where Texas is and New York, but anyway, I came to Arkansas and moved here a month later. And there's the crystal water, the crystal lake. And right after that, I met a person that showed up at my house with but before the last day of my first trip here, which was only a 4-day trip or 5 days, I saw went out on the lake and saw eagles, 5 eagles, happened to have a bottle, made the essence of the eagle. I mean, it's a whole story, but it was magical. Never have seen so many eagles at once since then. And then right after that, there was the hawk that came, and I had a whole communication with the hawk. So they tell me that they want, which, so that's how those unusual ones, it's not like because I love flowers. I mean, I love critters too, but when it's offered to you and it's coming in the head, this is what you're supposed to do, then you do it.
Absolutely.
Because I remember meeting you, Sabina, and I was so intrigued that you had shells and you had all these ocean things. And
Well,
that's,
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It was exactly that moment where we're walking on this sandy beach and looking at a sand dollar, and we're not even talking to each other, but both of us instantaneously got the thought that we had to make it into an essence for this friend of ours. And she had such a pivotal healing experience where she just woke up to what her participation in her disease was. I didn't do anything. I just gave her an essence. She took the drops and she comes back to her next appointment and says, I get it. I get it. This is the energy that I'm contributing to keeping this disease in my body. It was phenomenal.
wow.
I would like to hear you guys explain how you make these
With giant bowls.
What's that?
The dolphins and the whales in giant crystal bowls, right?
Yeah, right. In the sunlight. Yeah. Rainwater. Yeah. So how do you make those? And then I would like to jump into like how you see these doing like health transformations.
For instance, for the whale, we were out in the ocean. It was in my consciousness to make it, and I didn't quite know. But then the whale came up, and the captain's like, "Oh, look, the whale left a footprint." But it was actually he said foot, I thought he said footprint, but it was fluke print. And so we took the water from the fluke print, and each one is different. I had this communication with this hawk that my friend had doctored it back to health and ended up releasing it at my house, and it kept coming back every day. and I ended up having this communication with it. And for some reason, I decided to give it some water. Oh, I put a bowl out, and then I'm getting this message, make the essence. I'm like, how am I going to make the essence? And you've already put the bowl of water out, and the hawk literally sat there for a half an hour and talked and gave me the instructions, and I had the bowl of water, and I just called the energy into it.
I think that's amazing, and I love that approach. What I most love is the fact that we are connecting with these beings, right? Like physically connecting with them, not sitting in a room channeling them, just physically being with them. I mean, my whale story is the same as yours. We're out on a whale watching trip in Hawaii, and we're in the center of this pod of whales, right? Like they're completely surrounding us. I just drop a bottle into the water and collect the water, right? I mean, easy. And it felt just so sacred and absolutely the right thing to do in that moment.
It's so divinely orchestrated. You don't hit any walls. It's all there, and you can hear they're talking to us.
Totally. Totally. I get it. Oh, I love that. That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's nice to talk to you both, because I have that experience a lot too, where I'm just like getting a lot of information from creatures or all sorts of stuff. And it's just nice to hear you both talking openly about that, and that it's like very joyful experience to have that kind of connection.
Well, I never thought, I mean, I keep saying this, because, another aspect of our reality is this, how shall I say it? I used to refer to it as our bastard child, the abundance essence. And when we were told to make it, like I was doing all this research, right? I was doing the research in the context of the meridians and the chakras, because, my passion is Chinese medicine and the 5 elements and everything. And I wanted it to be legitimate. I wanted to be able to explain how these vibrations could impact on people's physiology. I mean, Bach knew that, but I mean, how did he know that? He was a medical doctor. So Chinese medicine brought it all together for me. But then I made the mistake, or not, of going to this woman who channeled an entity called Abraham, not the same as Esther Hicks Abraham, but channeled an entity called Abraham. And he tells us that we're going to make this prosperity essence. And I'm going, not me. I'm not making. That's not me, right? I mean, that just sounded like too woo-woo and Dr. John's snake oil kind of thing. But you know what? It turned out that essence, that combination, has become like a kind of driving force for people to find their own passion, their own purpose in their life, right? And I always, now I love it, and it's not our bastard child anymore. And I don't have to explain it anymore. It's like, you know what? The soul is here for its own joy, like Rumi said. And what can we do except like take these essences and experience this joy, and each be on our individual journey of fulfillment, right? So anyway, that's a little aside, but it's
well, that's actually how I got into flowers, I would say, is that I was really focused on physical health, and I came to it through dreams. So I was really trying to get people to have an experience of lucidity. And I found that if I could heal them with an herb in a way that they didn't think was possible, it would give them that aha moment, like things are not as stuck. But then after a while of working like this, I wasn't into the flowers at all. I was like, just very like a little austere. And then I started hearing messages like, you need to get into flowers. Like, you need to get into flowers. And it's like, I had that kind of resistance where I was like, oh, that's just the frilly stuff. And then it really helped me so much recover from head injuries. And then now it's like more like, well, how do you want your life to be? Like, what kind of joys do you want to experience? You don't have to pick one kind of joy. There's so many ways to have joy.
Totally. I did a blog last month, and I quoted Mindy Sampson. I don't know if she sells your essences, Healing Waters down in Arizona or New Mexico, I guess.
I've heard of it.
But anyway,
I've heard of it too. And I think maybe 30 years ago, they
Yeah,
did.
well, she still sells ours, but her tagline has always been, "How do you want to feel today?" And I remember having a guy come to one of our classes, and he went home with all the kits, and he would just look at the kit every morning and just take some drops, right?
I
And you
like
have to pick, like,
describing them
7
from
or
the
8.
outcome as opposed to what's wrong.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's where the difference with Bach kind of came in, because I could read those descriptions and get depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have names, and it's the outcome you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
How do you want to feel today? Yeah.
And so one of the things that I've had the consistent experience of around the world is if I mention the dolphin essence, people just light up, right? Because that's how we connect with dolphins, and that's how we experience them. And so wouldn't that be a good one for welcoming joy and shifting away from depression? I don't know what you've said your dolphin essence.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Shift. Yeah. I mean, I do on my website, you can type in the conditions like
Right.
depression or something, so you can find it, but I don't want to put that on the bottle.
No, gosh, no.
I somebody asked me at an expo one time if I wanted to do a trade, and I said sure, and they said, how would you like a bottle of chaos in the office? I'm like, no, I've got plenty of that. So
Not.
That's so funny. Um, so I think that the dolphin is a great emissary for water creatures or for animal medicine in general, because it is going to be like a very obvious, joyful experience. And then it clears up any doubt as to like what those essences can do as well. The essences have like a really clear, ability to shift our emotions and our energies. And could you guys talk more about what you've seen in terms of changing that, impacting people's physical health?
The first year we did the class, which has now become a retreat, we had this woman from Seattle come up, and she was already a Bach flower essence practitioner. And she went back to her practice, and this young man came to her and said, I want to take all the essences in Sabina's book. And at that point, there was only 37 flowers and 12 sea essences that are connected to the heart chakra, the heart meridian, and the heart protector meridian. And she looked at her client and she said, well, no, that's way too many essences. That's like, what? That's 20 essences. Oh, no, you can't do that. And he said, if I don't heal my heart, I'll die. And she, like, that was a step back for her. And it's like, she sort of recalculated and recalibrated and went, what could happen? These are harmless, right? These are harmless, and they can be really helpful. So she put together the formula, and this guy went and started taking this formula every 10 or 15 minutes for the whole weekend. He was very isolated at work. He was very not connected to people. He was very not connected to anybody. He was like walking and he had been very badly abused in his family environment where his parents had found out he was gay, and so they threw him out of the house when he was 14 years old or something, right? So there was a lot of trauma and stuff. Anyway, he went to work on Monday morning, and people were all of a sudden talking to him and seeing sort of light around him and like good energy. In Chinese medicine, it would be his shen. His shen was revitalized, right? His heart energy came alive and it was shining out through his eyes. Whereas before, when he had been isolated and stuff, he was really kind of withdrawn. I mean, he was putting that out. So anyway, later on that year, I was teaching in Argentina, and Dee had sent me this cassette tape of all these stories that she'd accumulated with like feral cats and stuff like that she'd used this formula with, and that's how Heart Spirit was born. And the whole idea of it being kind of a, how shall I say, not holistic, but holistic in the sense of being whole, like a whole person healing possibility really exists with these vibrations, right? It's not just emotional healing. And I and Chinese medicine clearly explains that, right? Like the five elements each have emotions connected to them that can be really toxic. And so, for instance, with the wood element, it's anger. And so anger can either physically harm your liver, or having a sick liver, like having sclerosis or something, can cause you to be angry all the time, right? So I love that. That's the missing piece as far as I'm concerned, to be able to connect all the dots and be able to treat the whole person instead of just isolated emotional conditions or physical conditions. Oh, you gorgeous being.
I have my creature too.
I
So
see that. My creatures are gone somewhere.
oh, that's a great story. And now people can just get your heart essence. What's it called again?
Heart spirit.
Heart spirit.
And
Okay.
yeah, I wanted to comment on that because I think when you talked about physical healing, it's you can't. I don't think you can separate them, because like you talked about the liver and anger and everything. I mean, I love Louise Hay, how you can look at the physical thing and see what the emotion is, and vice versa. So uh, there is no separation. To me, the essences work on the emotions and they're connected.
Let me tell you another story then, since we're talking about liver. So this same person had another patient, and she calls me one day and she says, I've just found out she was treating him for like, what's that thing? Oh, agoraphobia, like not being able to go outside. And so he says to her, I've had pain in my testicles for, I don't know, since I was 13 years old, and he's 25 or something. Is there an essence for that? And she goes, oh my God. So she calls me and says, what do you think? So I mean, I'm like, I don't think I've even gone to acupuncture school yet, but I've already learned shiatsu, right? So I'm knowing Chinese medicine, I'm knowing the meridian pathways. And of course, the liver meridian runs right through the groin, right? Like right around your genitals in men and women. And I said, well, you could try anemone, because that's the sea essence which is connected to the liver channel. So she gave him this anemone essence, and she doesn't tell him what it is. So he's not going to read the book or find out anything about it, right? And he comes back to the next appointment and says, you gave me an essence for the pain, didn't you? And she said, well, why would you think that? He says, it's gone. So do you see that connection? Like, it's
Yes,
phenomenal.
right.
Just take this essence, she said.
If you're talking to somebody who is starting out, which you guys both do, because you both have courses that you run to teach people, like what are your main pieces of advice for people to learn these essences so that they can support other people?
One of the things I do in my classes that I don't, because there's so many essences, it would be excruciatingly boring to start just defining each essence. So I try to introduce them so that they actually incorporate the frequency. Every essence gets mentioned and pictures, and so it's a transmission. For me, the way I teach is more of a transmission of the energy of the essence. And then there are numerous ways to determine which essences to give to your client. Either, there's the muscle testing, there's the pendulums, there's just often the client will say the words that I've used to describe the essence. They kind of tell you in
Yeah.
their consultation what they need. Each practitioner, I think, does it in a different way. Some people really want to memorize all the uses, but now with the internet, you can just put the keywords in and find them. Things have come a long ways, and it's so encouraging, and people are starting to realize that frequency makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. I try to give people a basic course in Chinese medicine. I
Sure,
try
no
to,
problem.
Yeah.
I try to give them sort of the archetypal patterns of Chinese medicine that they're going to recognize, right? So each meridian, for instance, heart protector is responsible for protecting the heart because, when the heart stops, everything else is going to shut down, right? The heart is the monarch in Chinese medicine. So I try to give them that possibility. Then I try to have them have physical experience of the meridians in their own bodies by practicing Qigong and stuff like that. I do briefly go through all 144 individual essences, which seems like a lot, but I also feel like I want to let more out there into the world. I also have an eagle set essence, which has been sitting on the shelf for, I don't know, 12 years or more. And a bear essence. Do you have a
Ooh,
That's exciting.
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Very cool.
It's like the other day I sent octopus to Lily because she said she wanted octopus. And I said, well, I made one in Thailand, I made one in Hawaii, and I made one on the island. So I'll send you one and let's see what she
So
says,
exciting.
right?
It's so exciting. I've been thinking about that a lot.
Just one more thing. I think when we turned them into retreats out here on the West Coast, it was a game changer because people all of a sudden, like back when we first started doing it out on the West Coast, um, there was no cell service out there. So, you'd have people coming and all of a sudden they had no cell. And it's like, oh my God, how am I going to be in touch? And it was the same experience that I had in the 70s being in the Sangre de Cristos Mountains in New Mexico with Ram Dass, right? Like we're 6,000 feet above sea level, and all of a sudden, and we got no, well, there weren't cell phones like in the late 70s, right? And Ram Dass is in his morning meeting is saying, okay, so we just find out somehow that, the Russians have sent a bomb at us. What are you going to do? Like, are you going to drive down the mountain and call home? And it's sort of like, it was like this, one of those pivotal moments of being here now. So anyway, one of the things that happens when we do the retreats is that cell phones are happening now out there, but people are in nature and they just drop all their stuff, all their roles from their normal life for like 7 days, and they just hang out. And that's, I think, one of the most powerful gifts I can give them in a class. Just that quality of being in nature.
I totally agree that the classes are more about connection and nature.
Hmm.
And so calling it a retreat makes much more sense. And that's if I haven't taught for a while because I put an online course and I'm debating about it. But really, what I want is to get people out on the Crystal Lake. That's my goal, which is I feel does once once we change ourselves into this other frequency, it all makes sense. Other trying to talk it through, got to
Yeah,
experience it.
yeah,
Yeah. So I'm with you 100% there on the retreat and how it changes people.
yeah.
Sabina, you have a retreat coming up, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. At the end of May 26th to June 2nd, we're doing a retreat.
Awesome. What I'm hearing from you is that like some of the things you could do to cultivate your essence abilities is to, first of all, just get more in touch with your own energy and then in touch with nature. And then in terms of practicing, allowing and tuning into your listening skills, both with like being receptive to the essence, like the energies that are coming through, and with your clients, like spoken intentions, because they're a lot of times they're just meeting and you're able to kind of facilitate those connections. Would you say that's
I think that's really critical as a Chinese medicine practitioner, and learning to see these, colors, sounds, uh, and emotions, hearing emotions in people's voices there was this whole sort of practicum about, and it wasn't just a practicum, it became a way of being with people. So like I can be with my client in such a receptive way, just like Star said, they tell you what they need. And that's what's been missing in certainly modern medicine here in Canada. I mean, yes, we have free Medicare and stuff, but we have doctors who, okay, you're in and you can talk about one thing. And it's sort of like, yeah, but what if that one thing is connected to this and this? Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm not even talking about physical and emotional now. I'm talking about this physical symptom might be connected to another physical symptom. And if the doctor doesn't feel like they have time to actually be present with you, then how the heck is healing ever going to occur? You know?
Same thing
Right.
here, for sure. Yeah.
I encourage people to take a lot of essences and and see and learn that way, because the
Yeah,
essences will teach you.
totally. Yeah.
Sounds like you want to get people out on Crystal Lake. Can you tell us more about that magic that made you move to Arkansas? Because that's a special kind of magic.
It was remarkable because I wasn't ever thinking of leaving. And literally 1 month later, I moved everything at the ripe old age of 71. So I've been here for 9 years now or something. I came and I just jumped in this lake, which has the biggest vein of quartz in the country running under it. In fact,
Okay.
this area, I listened to a channeling. Somebody sent me a channeling. I heard it at 4 in the morning. I usually wouldn't even listen, but I did. And it said that the crystals in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and Brazil were being activated at a new level starting 2015 and 2016. And it was 2016, and I thought, I need to go get the transmissions from those crystals because sacred sites have been one of my things, and I took the groups to Peru for 20 years. So I came, and when I jumped into that lake, which in the summer can be like high 80s into the 90 degrees, I didn't even know what a pontoon boat was, and there we were out on a pontoon boat, which now I have one. And it's my favorite thing in the world to do is go out on that lake. And I jumped in, and I felt like I took off a heavy poncho that I didn't even know I was stressed until I wasn't stressed anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
And moving here has been just the best thing ever. There's no traffic. We have the best water. I can get all my water from a spring. But even downtown, I don't know if you guys know Mountain Valley water. It's sold in those green bottles at the store. It's expensive. It comes from right here where I live. There's fountains in town where you can fill your bottles. The just everything about it, and economically, it's all I was doing was just moving money around. Not much was staying with me, but here I actually own my house, which I
Nice.
would have never owned my house in Santa Barbara. The crystals called me. I have no doubt. You can dig for crystals here. I feel like that's part of my mission now is getting people out on this lake to get the crystalline baptism. Plus,
Yeah,
the cool
it
thing
sounds
is
like
that
that.
we're using that crystal water to make our essences now. So that's the other
Nice. That's
reason
awesome.
that, because for a few years, my granddaughter was running my business. I was like out of it when I moved here. And then everything turned around during the pandemic. She just did not want to do it anymore. She had too many complications with getting supplies and all that stuff. So, but I know that it was meant for me to take it back, and now I'm starting out with a whole new vigor. It's pretty amazing. The essences want to get out, as
Yeah.
you probably would agree, more than ever before.
But it sounds like that lake, it's like swimming in an essence. Like just a yeah, I totally get that
Oh,
like
it
baptism.
is. It is. It's really that, and chanting mantras, kirtan are my favorite things. The lake and that. I have a deep affection for the essences, and I have a lot of them, and it's pretty trippy to be still making more. And
Yeah.
there's more that want to happen.
Well, we await the snake one. But
snake
I
is
feel like
Oh, yes, we could, I'm sure that Lily and I would both be willing to volunteer to
oh yes,
make one.
that's
All
awesome.
right, I'll be
I'm
sending
writing
you the snake.
great. Yeah, I'm writing a book about herbalism, which includes these essences for moving from survival to thriving in adversity.
Right.
And the first chapter I wrote about was about snake medicine and moving through denial. So I would be really, really excited about that. But it sounds like a common theme is like with the idea of this baptism, like I came back to the abundance thing, at the abundance remedy that you have or essence and Sabina, and this idea of kind of crystallizing your own pathway and like activating, like releasing all the things that are holding you back from your own unique journey in the world. Because so often we're all stuck in these, like, I should do this, my mom wants me to do this, I've been told how to do this my whole life, I'm supposed to sit in the same place for 8 hours a day or whatever it is, and instead moving into like, this is what makes life feel like happy and magical and uplifting.
So I don't think it was all that well. I just finished teaching an abundance workshop online in Japan, actually.
Oh.
It's a big seller in Japan. Michael, of course, is now gone, but Michael and I both teach in Japan every year until he died. He taught pranic healing, which is an energy healing technique with the chakras, and I taught essences. And one of the things that I think made us hugely successful in Japan was the fact that I'm not like Star, like you. I'm not really one of those women who is kind of shy and reticent. I'm kind of out there. And so, I think Japanese women saw that as something, a desirable quality, because they are very much more contained, bless them. I mean, their structure is way different than ours. And of course, Michael was respected because he was, he was a master. He was older, and they have a lot of respect for age, which is good for us, right, Star?
At this point, yeah.
But the thing is that to do this course this time, I really went back to our roots, and it went back to when we first had this fantasy. We were actually teaching meditation, and Michael was preparing all the anthropology courses for the MIU, Maharishi International University in Iowa. And we're sitting there and it's so funny how things happen, right? We had taken a day off to go up to Iowa City and watch Bergman films. There was a Bergman Film Festival. Remember that really dark Swedish guy who wrote all these really dark black and white, strawberry. Yeah. Anyway, so we sat through 2 of his movies, and then we went to a Mexican restaurant and we're eating tacos and drinking our first beer in about 6 months or something. And it's like, what do you really want to do? What do you really want to do? And it's sort of like, I just want to survive on 5 acres, like that was one of those things back then, kind of like what you're doing now, except you're more than surviving because you're in the right place, right? And so it evolved from that place that we immigrated to New Zealand, and we were just on, and we sat there and we examined our beliefs. We wrote down, like, it was stream of consciousness. I would say, what do I believe about marriage? What do I believe about work? What do I believe about whatever? And Michael would be writing, no computers or anything in those days. And same for him. And after we looked at these beliefs, it was sort of like, I can change this. You know, maybe I don't have the truth. Maybe my version of reality is just some, what Deepak Chopra would call premature cognitive commitment. I've learned it from my family or from my religious group or from my culture, and what if it's not true? And that was the beginning of abundance. So I went back to those same basic beliefs, right? Like, they come from the Seth books. You remember Jane Roberts in the Seth books? You must know. Okay. And there's this page where it says, life is a valley of sorrows. Life is suffering. I believe that I have the truth, or I believe that my group has the truth, right? And how many people have we killed over the centuries because my group has the truth and you are, you don't have the truth, kind of thing. And that was the beginning of the abundance program, right? Like, what do you really think about reality? And so it was interesting to see that out of these 45 women, that a lot of them got stuck in the same place, that they believed that their culture or their family had somehow given them these beliefs that they had to stick to. They had to sit in the right place, walk down the same paths, talk in the same voice, whatever. And that's what I think is so empowering and liberating, right? And yes, I'll come and be baptized in your lake because that sounds like a really liberating
Yeah.
and empowering
I,
experience.
I will take
Totally.
you out on my pontoon boat.
Yes.
But what I feel like is that if we just keep taking essences and which raise our frequency, because they have a very high vibe. So just taking them puts you in a different timeline, in a different reality, in a different world. I think that's the way we are going to solve the problems that are currently taking place. Is it just by continuing in all the, I mean, not just essences, but all the ways that we can raise our frequency. And that's the as well that gets us into the abundance attitude. Or it's a mind. I don't know if it's mind, heart. It's a vibration. It's a
Yeah, yeah,
vibrational thing.
yeah. But
And
most people don't even stop and think about what's going on with this chatter, 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 right?
well, that's
Yeah,
and
and well,
that's
and it sounds
that's
like
one of the gifts of the essences is that it can move you beyond that
Totally.
because we're not going to solve the problems from the same place as they're being
Creative.
they create, yeah, what's the truth? I don't know what the truth is. I got to get into a new realm, a new place. And that's why I feel like personally my life is fabulous. I mean, I just had the best birthday of my life. And each time it continues. I also have a little place here called the Star Portal. I don't know if you know that. I bought this little church and during COVID started making a gathering place when we're not supposed to gather. And I just call it a gathering place for healthy, high vibe, love filled events.
Oh, I love
And
it.
and it's not, I mean, it's not a church. I haven't, there's no deities because I love them all. And I thought and of course I'm in a Bible Belt here. So I didn't want to offend anybody by not having enough Jesuses if I had Kuan Yin or whatever. So I have geometry. I have lots of sacred geometry uh and and I have this little place and I don't know why. Anyway, that's what the way things just keep coming to me, like the snake essence, and I feel like it's because I live in a different timeline, and I take essences every day.
Yeah.
keep it coming. Yep. So I have loved hearing from you guys so far, but I did want to give you guys an opportunity if you have questions for each other, to or you want to talk about anything in particular with each other, since you have this opportunity, I would just like you to have that time.
What do you want to talk about, Star? I love
I want to just say
gathering.
how it's so fun that we met in Findhorn. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the one and only time I saw you. And
exactly.
do you remember what year that was?
1998, maybe?
It was in the 90s, but yeah, probably. So, and I had only started in 94, so I was pretty new at it.
Oh,
But the miracle that I even ended up there, I was pretty, because I was the new kid on the block for sure.
yeah,
And got to have a booth right next to Michelle Small Wright. So that was
right.
pretty cool.
And you know what quote from her that I love the most? In fact, I wrote a newsletter on that um, a few months ago, behaving as if the God in all life matters.
No. Yes, 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 I agree. That book fell off the shelf to me in Mount Shasta.
Yeah. Oh,
And
wow.
and and the cover of it was a little weird with that little rodent there, but I got it, and it was life changing as everything.
Yeah.
As everything
Um,
else, I love.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, we did a wolf campaign. There was wolves being murdered because they were pretending that, they were killing chickens and stuff like that. And so I decided to mount a campaign, and we got all these beautiful postcards made with a mother wolf and 5 babies sitting in a field of oxeye daisies. And we got people to sign them to stop killing wolves in BC, right? Because, there's a lot of evidence that when they killed all the wolves in Yellowstone, that they destroyed the environment, right? So then they started reintroducing them back into the park, and now the ecology has become balanced again. I mean, human beings are so messed up, right? We think we can just go in and, oh yeah, we'll just put this here and it'll be fine. So I think that's the other aspect of the work we do. I think having a profound respect for Mother Nature is something that um, is somehow, like, I was never, how shall I say, I wasn't an environmentalist. I didn't have to fight for that cause, but but all of a sudden I found out that I was an environmentalist, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? So
yeah, well, that's one of the reasons it's hard for me to go back to California. The and I loved it my whole life, uh, but being here where this is called the natural state, and there is an innate caring for nature here. I belong to the Arkansas Master Naturalists,
wow.
which and so it's surprising. It's not what I expected from Arkansas being, I thought I was so proud to be from California. Well, people are not impressed here that you're from California. It's and now when I go back, I don't even care to go back. The energy, of course, the energy there has shifted dramatically in Santa Barbara for sure. It's really so wealthy, and it's so crowded because there's in the residential neighborhoods, there's 3 families living in every house so that they can afford to live there. So you can't even find a parking place. But anyway, I agree with you that the ecology and the caring for nature is imperative.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know that. And I also think that, in these really troubled times, and indeed they are troubled, for the most part, as you said, taking essences every day, and it's not sticking your head in the sand, but it's maintaining some measure of equilibrium as we navigate these times, right? Because that's all we can do. It's not time for waving flags and protesting. It's about having this energy in our own being that somehow radiates out, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes I feel like I'm called just to walk through Walmart, just to beam the light.
Good for
I love
you.
it. It's a different type of activism. I was also thinking as you were talking, I was like, wonder what activism would look like if it was just people finding water sources and putting like different essences in them for their communities. What do you think?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think.
Well, and
Um,
also like hearing your story, Star, it reminds me of one of my favorite stories from your book, which Bliss and Blessings, which is about like one time you didn't have the money to pay your rent and you just started taking, I think it was Faith and Courage. Was that the one?
I have some good faith and courage stories.
Do you feel like there's that continuity of like taking those essences over and over time that give you that ability to like connect to those resources with a positive mentality, and then like eventually you're like kind of crack out of your little egg of your like California reality into this like natural world of where you're like can literally go swimming in an essence. Like it just seems so like poetic.
I attribute my life to the essences for sure. Because I think they continuously raise my frequency and into a place where the divine choreography is happening all the time, which I want to know more about what the Herbalists Without Borders.
Well, it's really exciting because we support local projects around the world. So if you decide you wanted to like have your chapel or Crystal Lake event or whatever, then, you know, like whatever your mission is, Herbalists Without Border would be like, okay, well, these are the rules you have to follow because we're an official nonprofit. And what do you need? How can we support you? And they can send you a bunch of bottles if you're like, well, I have all the mother essences and I have, you know, or you can get like donations of alcohol from your local store and they can use the nonprofit numbers from Herbalists Without Borders. So they can do a write-off and then you can get free bottles from Herbalists Without Borders. And then you can say, you know, this is a population I'm trying to support in my area. Why don't y'all come down for a baptism and leave with a free essence or whatever? You know, it's just like whatever you want. Or if you're like, on the other hand, you're like, you know, we have hurricanes every year where I live. I want to have disaster preparation stuff available. These are the things that I think I need. I'm going to look at your, you know, resource checklist that you recommend for this type of thing. Like, I would just want some boxes in my basement for when you know, when it happens again. Like either one of those situations, we're happy to support people. It's really the coolest part about it is just that we trust in your intuition. Like these clients who are looking for essences, their intuition matters so much. And so it's like, why impose our ideas about what makes cool herbalism practice or what makes healing happen in communities when people are just in their communities and they know what's going on and they know what they need.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, we have our own forms of rescue remedy, Sabina, and that during those events are very valuable to get to people.
Totally. And so I was never able until Herbalists Without Borders, which I was introduced to by Lily last fall. I didn't know that there was a way of getting essences to people when there was a crisis right here in North America. I mean, we've done it with the tsunami in Japan and we've done it with other sort of more global events. But this time we were able to make like small bottles of balancer, as you say, our emergency remedy, our rescue remedy, and ship it off for the California wildfires. And that just feels like being part of such a larger
Right.
community, right? Like nobody's ever going to know. Maybe nobody's ever going to buy another essence, but somebody who's just lost their home and their business, or maybe even a family member, are going to be recalibrated because that's what that particular essence does, right?
Yes, and yeah, just to have it is encouraging to the people, I feel like. You know,
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
happy to know that there is an outlet that we could send essences to that would be distributed to people that needed
Yeah,
them.
absolutely. And it's so awesome that you just were like, yay, I can do this, Sabina, and like jumped in on that. And you can also, as businesses, just, you know, contribute ahead of time to it's kind of like a library of the flower and gem essences or, you know, your combos. Like if you're like, these are great for emergency situations, then people in those areas can be like, you know, what else do you recommend for my emergency kit? And then they can be just tapped into that for you. And like you said, it's a wonderful feeling to have to just be like, okay, it's out there and the right people will find it, hopefully as many people as possible. And I can tell you that Denise, the woman who runs the donation part of it, she is just a force of nature. She's just working constantly. She'll work like 80 hours a week, just collecting donations and then sending it out to people. And she's on a mission, not like an official, she doesn't describe it like that, but you know, like she is just putting her full force into giving and making sure people have the resources they need. Yeah. Well, it's been so delightful to talk to you, both of you at the same time. You're both like so exciting and inspiring. And just, I love the the energies that you connect me to, but also having read both your books, your way of seeing the world and just making it easier to connect. So I'm just super grateful that you're part of our Herbalists Without Borders community. And I hope that, I just hope that I can attend your retreat at some point, Sabina, and get baptized. I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to those things. Those will be like
Yeah.
on my to-do list. But
Thank you
yeah,
for making this happen, Lily. I really appreciate it. And I think Star and I have more to talk about at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
And Lily bought me one of your books. I haven't got it yet, but she's going to send it to me. So I'm really looking forward to reading it.
Very cool. Well, this has been totally fun for me. Yeah.
well, I look forward to seeing updates from you guys in the future, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and come to Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Think about it for sure.
Right. Many people find brown bear herbs through our herbal smoking blends. They are designed to help people quit tobacco or reduce tobacco, start smoking healthier, smoke less, maybe not start tobacco. And people also use them to help moderate their marijuana use. And that is awesome. And hopefully, that is just the beginning of a journey of discovery and empowerment with the world of natural medicine. If you like to smoke different herbs, I think that you are probably a little bit adventurous. The essences offer a similar type of adventure for people who are looking to explore how they can change their experiences and cultivate different emotional and mental states. And whether these essences come from flowers, gemstones, and eventually we'll have a selection of animals essences too. They help shift your energetic habits and open you up to new ways of doing things, new intelligences, and new flows, like new places of ease, so that you can open up your world a little bit. I hear so much positive feedback. So the individual essences that we have in our shop, that collection will keep growing, and there'll be more and more to choose from so that you can add to your collection and have more to choose depending on like what your needs and goals are. I love doing individual consultations for essence combos. So what that involves is that you purchase the essence consultation, then I reach out to you by text and email, however I get a hold of you. And then we schedule a short appointment. Usually it's around 20 minutes and over the next few days. And that can be on the phone or a video call. And then I just ask you like, what's going on? And you tell me your primary emotional goals or what you're struggling with. That's been so many different things. And sometimes it's stuff that's really hard. Like you're going through some like anxiety because someone has passed, or you're having a creative block, or you are struggling at work because it's gotten really boring and you're frustrated with people and it's coming out and you don't want it to, you want to be more empathic, stuff like that. There's all sorts of different ways to be shifting where you want your life to go. And then I just will ask you some clarifying questions about that, maybe ask you about how the problems are presenting in your world. Like if you say anxious, I might want to know more about how your body feels, or if I'm not really sure what you mean by something, I'll ask more questions about that. But it's usually a pretty quick conversation. And then I put the essence together, and I have like hundreds of essences in my collection. They're not all in our shop yet. And so I have a lot to choose from, and then I send it right out to you. And I've been getting like such great feedback from people who either had a great time and they're good and they don't need that same one again. They feel like their life has shifted in the way they really needed it to happen, or that it created a lot of joy. And then also people who are like, please send me the same thing because I still need the same thing and it's helping. And my favorite way to take the essences is to put around 5 drops into your water bottle and sip it throughout the day. If that's too complicated or hard to remember, you can just put in a couple drops into anything that you're drinking or directly in your mouth. You can keep your little essence bottle in your pocket. They're small, and have it when you remember. That's a good baseline way to take essences. If you find you want a little more frequent or a little less, that's fine too. You're not going to overdose. And if it helps, it's fine to slow down the doses or speed them up. So that's the 411 on essences and why I think they're cool and important and a great thing to try out if you've already quit smoking or you're just at a place in your wellness journey where you want to explore the next level. You can find more information at brownbearherbs.com, and please like this video or make a comment. Let me know what you think is interesting or what else you would like to learn about. Oh, and if you are curious about Sabina's 5-element essence retreat, where you can learn to be a practitioner, please sign up. I put her link in the bio, and I hope to see you there. Have a great day.